And my job on this holiday weekend is simply make a transition from Judges, one of the most messed up 300 years in history, and we are River's Edge 2.0 in 1 week. So, chewing on several possibilities, landed on this challenge. Guard your heart. Repeat that. Yeah. There's a model that I learned many, many years ago. It was 1979. It was my second year on full-time staff Youth for Christ. And Patsy and I and 13 staff total got in a mini Class C motorhome, like the van front and the over cab over the top, 4 people sleeping up there. It was disgusting. And drove to Miami Beach for Youth for Christ National Staff Conference. And our speaker in the mornings, each morning, the 3 mornings, was Bill Gillihan. And he introduced me to this. So when he say, I can name like 5 of the most impactful messages I've ever heard. This is one of those 5. So as part of membership class at River's Edge in the early days, when we used to have a 3-week membership class, but no one will join a church if you do that anymore. So we had to edit it back to 1 class. So we kind of lost this diagram. I realized, it's been since November of 16, we did a series in Proverbs, which is going to be our real text today, since I've mentioned it. So 3 years, my goodness, many people haven't been here. And it is the perfect transition. Because what I do know I don't want River's Edge 2.0 to be is Judges chapter 22. We don't want to add that story at all, right? And actually the questions I asked the last 2 times I preached for the story of Deborah and the story of Samson, I said, have you ever made the same mistake again? Remember that? And you all nodded then too. You're still making the mistakes. I asked, have you ever repeated the same sin again? And 10 people nodded there, and there's many more. Yeah, I've been there, done that. I said, have you ever known the right thing to do, and then just flat out chose not to do it? Yeah, I did that too. And so I thought, by the time Judges ended, it just kept getting worse and worse, didn't it? If you were here for that whole series. They apparently didn't learn an end to those questions. They just kept repeating the same stuff. And if we had continued the series, next is Saul, David, and Solomon. And Israel got pretty powerful. They made a lot of good choices. David and Solomon, the richest people in the world at their times. David, a man after God's own heart. And yet he has the Bathsheba and kill Uriah story. Solomon, pure life, built a temple, had 300 wives and 700 concubines. That's, if I do the math right, 1,000 problems. And then we get into the split kingdoms. They can't get along enough, so they actually divide. And then read that really it's Judges all over again, especially in the northern kingdoms. Good king, bad king, worst king, terrible king. And they worship the idols, the other gods, until finally God had both the upper 10 tribes hauled off by Assyria, and a few years later, even Judah conquered by Babylon. And after 70 years of captivity, they came back and sort of rebuilt Jerusalem a fraction of what it was once. Even rebuilt the temple. It was cool. Even reinstituted some of the sacrifices and the ceremonies that they did. They tried a little bit to be good, but it was really 400 years later the game changer happened. His name was Jesus. And now I think we truly can put a spin on those 3 questions. So I can ask, have you ever not made the same mistake again? Ever. Once you go, I did that 5 times, you know what? I didn't do it yesterday. Maybe there is hope, right? Have you ever not repeated that same sin again? Probably. Give yourselves a hand. That's good. If you didn't clap, that means you're still doing it. No. Have you ever known what was right to do, and you flat out went and did it? Yeah. So there is hope, and that is why Jesus came, so we could reestablish a relationship and an intent that if we guarded our heart, we actually could be the person God created us to be. So this diagram today, that's what all it is, I think explains that better than anything. Let me set it up with another proverb, though. Proverbs 29:25. A proverb I've started literally over 100 weekend retreats with teenagers with this verse and a talk on it, which I don't have time to do the talk today. I think go back in 2016, it was probably in that series. Proverbs 29:25 says, this is a different translation, fearing people is a dangerous trap, but trusting the Lord means safety. Two really important points. It says, fearing people, and you can imagine with teenagers, with peer pressure, that's why this proverb is so relevant. If we consider what other people think before we act, is my paraphrase of that. And it's not just teenagers. We all do that our whole life, right? Consider what other people think before we act. Peer pressure never goes away. It just gets way more expensive, right, for us adults. And it says, fear of man or fearing people is a dangerous trap because it leads you down the wrong road. The literal Hebrew word picture is a hook in the nose. Picture a fishing hook through your nose, tied to someone else with a rod and reel, kind of jerking you around. That's what peer pressure or being afraid of what people think really feels like. They're calling all those. I Googled that. I thought, there's got to be a picture of that. But most of it's like Aborigine things. And I don't know. I didn't think it would look good up here. I found a video about a 10-year-old kid in a fishing boat with literally, zoomed in on him, the hook was right here in his nose. And he's sitting there and his dad goes, does that hurt? He goes, yes. And he goes, well, sit still. Then he gets a pair of pliers out of his tackle box. I turned the video off. But I think it went downhill from there. A hook in the nose is not a good thing, okay? So don't let your life be shaped by what other people are thinking. There is an option, and it's trusting God, that He is God, you are not, and what He thinks is better. And again, I think this model shows better than anything else how we can trust God, how we can guard our heart above all else. I think I put an outward verse in here first. The fact is, what people think does affect us. One more click there. Yeah, okay, I took it out. Okay, so forget that. The verse is, the fact is, walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. That makes sense, doesn't it? If you're interested, that's Proverbs 13:20. It matters who we hang out with, is what it means. So we can affect our surroundings to shape us. But even more importantly is this verse, 4:23. It says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. If you get the heart right, things will fall in place. So what does that look like? Well, let's go back to Bill Gilliam, 1979, Miami Beach. It was a party, that whole 20-some-hour mini motorhome trip down there. Johnny Cash had just hosted a TV special for Youth for Christ. It's 1979. I was born then. I was old then. And he had hosted a 3-hour TV special for us, nationwide. People called in. We had a call center downtown in the old Jack Tar Hotel, and I don't know, hundreds of people called to raise $55,000. I mean, it was a cool thing for Youth for Christ. Johnny Cash came to Miami Beach to do some music for us, just because he had made that connection. We didn't pay him. We didn't know he was coming. I walked in the hotel from dinner, and he's checking in there. We chatted for a while, gave him some song ideas. It was really sweet. I made all of that part up. I said hi, sir. But in the mornings, Bill talks, starting with this verse. I want you guys to read it so it kind of sinks in your brain. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Go for it. It's a little bit of a long verse. He's saying, may God get involved in your life. It's not just us that have to protect our heart and just say, no, world, go away. God wants it. He's at work in our life. May He make you holy. Set aside for a special purpose is another way to paraphrase that. He has a great plan for your life. He wants it to happen. Let Him help you make it happen. And He wants your whole spirit, soul, and body to be kept blameless. You don't have to follow the judge's pattern and make all those mistakes again. You can be holy and blameless and intentionally serve Christ. So this body, soul, and spirit, there's a couple theological twists of where's the spirit, where's the soul, how do they fit together, the same. We're not going down that road. Theologians write big books and talk about that if you want to search that. But Scripture says they're all there. And this is a way to picture it, according to Bill Gillingham. Let's put it up there. First of all, this is you. You're just kind of a square. That's your body. That's just your physical part. One more click, so say body. And the most important piece in your body is up in the top, it's your brain. Wow, isn't that pretty cool? I just go like this and it goes up there. we have technology. Now, your brain and your body are amazing. There are whole fields of science that do nothing except try to figure out how amazing we are. I mean, think about it. You've been in science class, some of you, especially if you've taken anatomy. You just talk about our circulation, how we see stuff. You know, it comes in your brain upside down. It's just mind-boggling. Just about a little over a year ago, to cut her eyeballs open and put a lens in there. She had glasses that thick that cost us $900. Now she has 20/20 vision. Are you kidding me? How do they do that? How we hear, how just digestion. When you really, our bodies are amazing. And sitting up here on top, covered with hair by most people, is this brain that manages all of that. And sometimes something goes wrong. You know, you go to doctors and take medicine and try to fix stuff. But it's amazing how many millions of things a day go right, isn't it, really? And our brain is managing all this information coming from the world down outside our bodies, enters our bodies, again, millions of times a second through all of our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, what we read and think through and process, relationships with other people, your work's down there, your house is down there, your family's down there, all part of our experience living together in the world. River's Edge Community Church, we put a little church building down there. And all of that is data fed into your brain, which somehow, we want to begin to understand, accumulates all that, processes it, remembers it. Isn't it crazy what we can remember? Isn't it annoying what we forget? There's some warriors crossing up there, but it's amazing. There's almost like two little computers that feed information on up to the real you. We'll get to that in a second. And it's almost like these two guys are sitting at terminals, or it could be girls, let's not be sexist, inputting data just as fast as they can type of everything you're bringing in through your body, your brain's processing, and stashing away in the incredible miracle way it does it. And it goes into your heart, your soul, the real you. It looks like the soul, two things. First of all, your mind, that would be what you think, and your emotions, that would be how you feel. And almost literally any data that comes in triggers both of those. It could be a show you're watching, a book you're reading, something a neighbor says, something your mom says, something your husband or wife says or does. You go, this makes me think, this makes me feel. We just say that repetitively millions of times a day. I think, I feel, I think, I feel, I think, I feel, I think, I feel. And however you process that, some of you might even ask, how should I think? How should I feel? We get other people's opinion for that. But ultimately, down deep in your heart, your soul, those used synonymously, especially in the Old Testament, it comes down to what are you going to do? Your will. So you get all this information. I think, I feel, I will. And then you have the follow-up to that. I should. That was the right thing to do, or why did I do that? Right? So there's a couple observations. One is your mind and emotions, as amazing as they are, will not always agree. And Bill Gillham's best illustration, I think, so I just steal it all the time. I've done this live with students. I figured out after the first time not to do it with adults, but I'd have, picture this with me, it's almost as effective, a paper sack sitting right here. At this point, I'd reach down and grab. And I just come walking this way with it as I talk. So everybody's going, oh, what's he up to now? Because we do some pretty weird things around here. As I walk out here, I open it, and in Jim's lap, dump a 6-foot rattlesnake. He is thinking and feeling. A lot. His mind is going, that's a diamondback rattlesnake. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10, I think I have a problem. Diamondbacks in your lap, not good. Meanwhile, the feeler, your emotions are thinking, whoa! I mean, your brain is telling your body all sorts of stuff. Surprise look. Yell. Ah! Wet your pants. Woo! I mean, you're all getting involved because you don't want a snake in your lap. He's probably already 3 rows back there. Or you're at the door by now. Okay. So he's halfway down the aisle. I go, hey, Jim, wait. And I reach over and pick it up. I go, it's just rubber. Like, thank you. That was not rehearsed. That's exactly what we'd all do. And your thinker is going, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, rubber snakes don't bite. 0, no problem. How about your feeler? I'm going to kill him. That was not funny. And the emotions are still going. You're still little sweaty palms, heart's beating, pants are wet. I mean, none of that's changed. And again, the positive is it's because our emotions are amazing. But just hear today that our emotions also can be tricky. And don't put yourself in the position of, I just felt so I don't know why, I don't understand. Can you see the tension happening there? You trusted your emotions over your mind, made a decision that was premature and you should have thought more about, got better information about it. So you know what? I feel like I'd like to do that, but I know I shouldn't. Then you don't make those statements of, I shouldn't have done that, but I just felt. I know it was wrong, but I have felt. Those kind of statements are made every day. Then the will makes your body do something you should not have done that you're sorry for. So we can end right there. That's a pretty good warning of 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Pretty good challenge to guard your heart, not let that happen. The good news is it gets way better. Let's look at this. Your spirit, Bill Gilliam said, body, soul, and spirit, or Paul said it in 1 Thessalonians. Your spirit, the Bible says, because Adam and Eve sinned, is separated from God. You're created in his image, knit together in your mother's womb. God is interested in you from the millisecond of conception, therefore, but he will not force his way into your life. So he's up there, and your body is here, body, soul, and spirit, but you're in charge. One organization says you are sitting on the throne of your life. You're calling the shots. Until, the phrase we often use, you ask or invite Christ into your life. Say, God, I want you inside. And the coolest thing then, it's almost like there's 2 new computers. Boom, boom. And now, God is telling you what he thinks and what you should think. God is telling you how he feels and what you should feel. And based on what God thinks and what God feels, you know what God wants you to do. Several just go, whoa. Seriously. I mean, isn't that exactly what life feels like? Maybe you should take a picture of this and carry it around. Bring it up on your phone. Okay, that's what life feels like. Okay, and just remind yourself. Because I think we make it way too complicated. When the reality is we're simply listening to the wrong voices too much of the time. And we're taking that data from the world and believing it and deciding on it, even when a lot of times it's bad advice. You know there's some people in the world that don't necessarily have a Christian perspective? Ever notice that? And if that's the only voice you're getting, doesn't mean they can't have some true information. If that's the only voice, often you're probably making decisions that are not pleasing to God. If you're listening to God and what he feels and what he thinks, it should be different. So that tension of who am I getting my information from should greatly determine how often you're doing exactly what God wants you to do and experiencing life exactly how he wants you to experience it. Wouldn't it be awesome? That information is always going to come in. We can't just go live on a mountaintop, right? It'd be fun, but we're going to interact with people. We're going to get information that's good, bad, and otherwise. But what we do with it will be directly influenced by how much of God's truth we're getting into our life. So we immediately can say, that's not true. Body, ignore that. Eyes, look away. Ears, turn that off. It's that easy. And instead, it's not like you just walk around with blinders on. No, you seek places that gives you good information. Go to the website that's a fun podcast that tells you something about God. Read his word. That always works. Hang out at River's Edge. Be places that help you determine what God thinks, how God feels, and what God wants us to do. Okay, I don't have the 3 90-minute sessions that Bill had. So all I can do is jump to my edited down version. I think I had 24 or 6 verses, whatever it was. I go, wow, that'll take way too long. So, Trent likes top 10 list. So here's 10 verses out of the dozens that you could read. Now, I hope some of you are reading the Bible through. I guarantee, wherever you are in the Bible this week, there'll be verses you go, oh, Trent should use that one Sunday. Because if Scripture talks about anything, it talks about how we can best follow Jesus. It's all through there. But here's some great ones. I think important, the starting point of making this choice of guarding your heart, these first 3 speak to that. First one is Acts 3:19. Now change your mind and attitude to God and turn to him so he can cleanse away your sins. So again, God's there. It's not like God didn't go away. He didn't leave you. He's there, simply available to be invited into your life. The fact is, many of America, 85% that we say believe in God, many have never made the choice to invite him in. They haven't changed their mind and attitude to God. They believe in him, but they trust themselves more, is what it comes down to. And this is Peter preaching right after Jesus had ascended. 3,000 people believed. So, hundreds of people are listening. And he goes, the key is, you've thought about God your whole life. You've got to change your mind, how you think, and your attitude, how you feel toward God. And you got to turn to him, make a choice to let him lead your life. And he literally, as we saw in the model, moves into your heart. And the Holy Spirit, who we receive at the moment of salvation, can now guide your thoughts and your feelings and help you make the right choices that God calls us to do. So at River's Edge, we often talk about starting that relationship and challenge you to talk to a pastor or a good friend if you've never done that, if you have questions about that. And that would be the biggest key to the day if you haven't done that. So talk to one of us. Another verse says, Romans 12:2, one of my favorites, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world. So think of the diagram. It's the world giving you the information. Oh, you should look at this. You should look this way. You should do this. You should don't do that. Don't copy that blindly, anyway. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person. How? By changing the way you think. Again, you're not God. God is. Let God be God. Change your mind and attitude towards God and let him direct your thoughts. Literally, it says, transform you into a new person. And when I talk just that verse, I love to talk about the cartoon, the movies, the Transformers. Don't have time for that, but especially that generation, that if you have a Transformer sitting in your room, I'll speak to you for a second, that's a great word picture. It just looks like a car or a semi-truck, but man, it transforms into something very powerful. And it's a great word picture of how God sees us. There's so much built into us that we probably never really accomplish because we don't trust him fully. Number 3, the Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This is when David was being anointed king. And Samuel saw the older brothers. He was taken to the right household led by God. So he starts bringing the brothers in by age. And they've run out of brothers. There's just the one little runt kid out in the field watching the sheep. So he says, send for him. And God clearly says to Samuel, that's the guy. And they're going, how can this be the guy? And the answer is, well, God doesn't see things the same way we do. Man or people judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. He's looking for you to want to think like he wants you to think, to feel like he wants you to think, so you're doing the things he wants you to do, your heart, your soul. So next week, can I talk about the battle that goes on with that? So number 4 says, so do not let sin control the way you live. It's our choice. Do not let. Got to give you the courage, the motivation, and the help to stand up and say, nope, not going there. Don't let sin control the way you live. Do not give in to sinful desires. Do not let any part of your body become an instrument of evil to serve sin. So again, you look at that diagram. When he actually drew the diagram in the session, he put ears and lips hanging off the bottom of that document. You kind of picture all that. It's like any part of your body. Don't let anything get out of line and be used by evil. Instead, give yourselves completely to God. For you are dead, but now you have new life. So use your whole body as an instrument to do what is right for the glory of God. I'm going to be really cool about all these bodies are out there doing the right things all the time. And we're not robots because we have the heart to choose. We do control what we choose to do. But wouldn't it be cool if you go, oh, there's some Christians. Oh, there's some Christians. They're all doing exactly what God wants them to do. Our world would be a different place. One more about the choice. Number 5, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. Any words stand out there? Oh, you guys are sharp. All in. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs 3:5. Lean not on your own understanding. Doesn't say kiss your brains goodbye. I always say that. But in the light of this diagram, doesn't that make sense? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Have your heart looking up to what God thinks, what God feels. Lean not on your own understanding. Well, this is, I just read in a magazine. This is what the world says. No, seek information, consider it, but don't lean on that. Lean on God. Trust that He is right, that He really knows. It says, in all your ways acknowledge Him, or consider what God thinks, a paraphrase says, which is perfect for this diagram. Before you act, consider what God thinks before you act, and He'll make your path straight. As slaves of Christ, do the will of God with all your heart. So again, it's just a second all-in verse. I just can't get rid of it. So how we do that, here's the next 3. Number 7, since you have been raised to new life with Christ, set your sights on the realities of heaven where Christ sits in the place of honor at God's right hand. Then it says, think about the things of heaven, not the things of earth. I love that. Heaven is real. Sometimes we need that reminder. I'll usually say at memorial services, probably one part of a memorial service is it does cause us to pause and I think of the bigger picture of life. I'm not doing that as a pastor. The fact is, I think almost everybody walks into that room and thinking, what is the meaning of my life? What is the meaning of life? Where am I headed in life? We just tend to ask that question there. That's a good question to ask. And I love the reminder here that as you make choices in your heart of who you want to be and what you're going to do, it says, stop once in a while and focus your thoughts on heaven and what really matters most in life, what God really does want. I love to say it this way. When someone's all freaked out about whatever they're dealing with, their choices they're making, 1,000,000 years from now, will it really matter? And I think 99% of what we worry about every day, the answer is no. So let it go and focus on what's most important. Number 8 says, store my commands in your heart. If you do this, you'll live many years and your life will be satisfying. I love that. I think a huge percentage of people would say, I'd really like to be satisfied in life. Sadly, they don't know exactly how to get there, especially I think in our culture, we think the next purchase might get us there. If my TV is 65 inches instead of 55 inches, I think I'd be satisfied. If I had 400 horsepower instead of 300 horsepower, I think I'd be satisfied. But some of my family went down to the Auburn car auction yesterday, where they just roll through all day long cars that are selling for 10, 20, 30. One Duesenberg, I think it was, a 170,000. I only bought 3. No. It's easy to kind of get caught up. You know what? If I drove that home, I think I'd be satisfied. 57 Corvette had a $300,000 bid that didn't meet reserve. They just drove it back home. So we can't just rely on our initial heart impulse of what might satisfy. It's got to be bigger, and it's got to be because of our trust in God and trusting His commands. Store my commands in your heart. And again, we can do that not just by showing up at a church that reads from the Bible once in a while, but in our own daily lives of looking into His Word, being reminded of His promises, and applying them to what we think and what we feel and what we do. Lastly, number 9. I love Psalm 37. Read the whole thing today if this really hits home with you, or at least the first 6 or 8 verses. Take delight in the Lord, verse 4 says, He will give you your heart's desire. I really believe that. I think it's a common fear. I understand it. People going, well, if I became a Christian, A, God might send me to Africa. I don't want to live there. And B, what if he makes me do something I don't want to do? I'm going to just say, after doing this for several decades, I can't think of anybody that's come up and said, well, I was doing great, and then I gave my life to Christ, and he made me do something I really don't want to do. I really don't think that happens. If we get our heart in line with what God thinks and what God feels and what he wants us to do, I think you're going to say, that's exactly what I needed to do. He gave me my heart's desire. Then lastly, says in Psalm 51:10, and this is after David's mess up, right after he yielded to the temptation and had committed adultery with Bathsheba, had her husband murdered, marries her, tries to cover it up. Nathan the prophet comes and confronts him. Then he knows it's not a secret because God knew. And he writes Psalm 51. And towards the end of the passage, he says, create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a loyal spirit within me. Everybody read that together.
Create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a loyal spirit within me.
David said, I made a choice that did not reflect God. God, I think the answer to that is renew a loyal spirit right here. Clean house. Forgive my sin. I'm going to focus on you. Tell me what to do next. And he actually ended up being a pretty good king after that. So regardless of where we've been, the good news today is, make this your prayer as we end. Create in me a clean heart, God. Renew a loyal spirit in me. I want to do what you want me to do because I do believe it's the desire of my heart and it will be a satisfying life. Help me do that. Guard your heart. All of your life flows from that. Let's pray. Father, I just thank you for your word. I thank you for people like Bill that worked hard to put together a series like this that influenced me all those years ago, and many others, I know. So use it today, Lord, just to speak to each of us where we're at. May we truly examine ourselves. Help us just be honest, Lord, with how much we listen to the world and how much we listen to you. I just pray, Lord, we're challenged to say no to stuff that sends us the wrong direction and say yes to the Holy Spirit's influence in our life. May we pursue you, Lord, with all our heart. May we truly be all in. And may you shape our mind and our attitude in such a way that our will really, truly reflects the person you've created us to be. To pray for each one here, Lord, because we're individuals, all at different places in our journey. May we take a step today in a direction of being more fully committed to you. Thank you so much for your love. Thank you for this church family. And we are excited about 2.0, where you're leading us next. Thank you so much for your faithfulness this year, and the craziness of going to 2 services just a year ago next week, and what you have done. And we just trust you just as much for 2.0. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.